Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are diving headfirst into a wildly pivotal weekend from the 2026 season, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. This wasn't just, another standard race on the calendar. This weekend completely reshaped the entire championship narrative. We're going to break down exactly how Aprilia executed a practically flawless strategy and how it sets the stage for a seriously intense title fight. Let's get right into it.
One historic track, a completely dominant front row, and a championship turned absolutely upside down. Listen, Silverstone is notoriously fast, right? It demands absolute perfection from both the rider and the machine. Going into the weekend, coming right off the summer break, the tension in the paddock was palpable. Everyone was just waiting to see who had actually done their homework over the holidays. And, well, one manufacturer clearly went way above and beyond.
First things first, we have to talk about Saturday's qualifying results because the story here is crystal clear, an historic all-Aprilia front row. Jorge Martin just absolutely blitzed the track, rocketing to an all-time lap record of 1 minute 56.160 seconds to take pole position. That is flying. Right behind him, the Trackhouse Aprilia duo of Raul Fernandez and Io Gura. Further down, you've got the Ducatis of Di Gianantonio and Marc Marquez, with Marco Bezzecchi wedged in there in fifth. This qualifying session, it was a massive statement of intent from Aprilia. They didn't just show up, they locked out the absolute pinnacle of grid positioning.
So that brings us strictly to the Sunday main race for the MotoGP class. 20 laps of that fast, flowing, completely unforgiving Silverstone layout. With that all-Aprilia front row, the expectation was a clean breakaway. But, as we all know in prototype motorcycle racing, the margins for error are basically zero. In the incredibly complex technology on these machines, it can be surprisingly fickle.
The starting lights go out and boom, disaster strikes literally immediately. The rear start devices completely failed to disengage for both pole sitter Jorge Martin and third-place Io Gura as they tipped into turn 1. Just imagine being stuck in that squatted lowered position while trying to race. Martin was wrestling his machine and instantly dropped down to 4th, but Raul Fernandez? His device worked perfectly, and he just shot forward, seizing this commanding, uncontested lead right off the bat.
Now that dramatic Turn 1 chaos totally set the tone for the afternoon, which quickly turned into a brutal race of mid-race attrition. The visceral, high-speed nature of Silverstone means that if you're pushing the absolute limits, especially if you're desperately trying to recover from a bad start, there are immediate consequences. You can't just casually ride around problems here. If a rider's rhythm is broken or they push that front tire even a fraction of a percent too hard, the gravel trap is waiting for them. And honestly, the attrition rate was staggering. It completely reshaped the championship picture in real time. Right out of the gate on lap 1, Alex Rins and Joan Mir collide, and they're done. By lap 6, Ania Bastianini and Iker Lacuna are out. But lap 8? Lap 8 is where the shockwaves really hit the paddock. Reigning champion Pecco Bagnaia suffers a massive crash. He actually admitted later he was at a total loss regarding his Ducati's front-end feeling. And then, just 2 laps later on lap 10, championship contender Io Gura, who came into this sitting 3rd in the overall standings, crashes out at the final chicane while trying to make up ground from his start device issue. Just brutal. But look, while Ducati was struggling and riders were pushing way over the limit, Raul Fernandez was out front putting on an absolute clinic. With clear air ahead of him, Fernandez was laying down this flawless, completely untouchable pace. He was like a metronome, just ticking off the laps, fully exploiting the incredible high-speed cornering stability that Aprilia engineered into the RSGP 26. Literally nobody could get near him.
However, behind Fernandez's breakaway, an entirely different kind of battle was unfolding. Marco Bezzecchi came into this race heavily struggling with severe collarbone and knee injuries from crashes right before the summer break. I mean, he was in so much physical pain that he could barely even walk that Sunday morning. It requires just immense mental fortitude to suit up knowing you have to wrestle a 300 horsepower machine around Silverstone for 40 straight minutes while your body is screaming at you. Aprilia's CEO Massimo Rivola actually captured the gravity of Bezzecchi's performance perfectly. He said, and I quote, "When you see a rider that struggled to walk in the morning and had a race like that, you can imagine how big his heart is. We are a good example for the heart and the balls, if I may say, of our riders." It's just a great quote. It beautifully grounds the highly technical spectacle of this race in sheer human emotion and willpower. Bezzecchi wasn't just fighting the track out there, he was literally fighting his own failing body.
And Bezzecchi himself perfectly summarized his own mindset. He said, "When we put the helmet on, it's like putting earplugs in."
I love that. It brilliantly illustrates his ability to compartmentalize. He faced an immense amount of physical pain compounded by a recent string of bad crashes. But the second that visor goes down, the outside world and even the pain signals from his own injuries, they just get muted. He fought his way right to the front of the pack on pure grit alone.
Which brings us to the dramatic climax of the race. Against all odds, the factory and satellite Aprilia teams delivered an historic 1-2-3 sweep. Raul Fernandez crossed the line 2.5 seconds clear of the field to take a truly dominant victory. Jorge Martin showed massive maturity, recovering brilliantly from his Turn 1 mechanical nightmare to safely secure second. And Marco Bezzecchi, battling through all that physical agony, successfully fended off a late charge from Alex Marquez to lock in third. Incredible.
So let's look at how the top 5 results actually shook out. Completely cementing Aprilia's technical dominance, Fernandez, Martin, and Bezzecchi swept the podium. Alex Marquez managed to salvage a 4th-place finish for Ducati, sitting 4.7 seconds back from the lead, and the sensational Pedro Acosta rounded out the top 5 on his KTM. When you look at this final scoreboard, it is just a stark representation of Aprilia perfectly executing both their factory and satellite team strategies. Oh, and as a quick and kinda brutal footnote to the results, Yamaha's Fabio Quartararo initially crossed the line in 12th place after a really grueling ride, but he was hit with a post-race 16-second penalty for a tire pressure violation. This unfortunately dropped Quartararo all the way down to 16th place in the classification, which means he walked away with 0 points for his efforts. Just a tough break. So what does this all mean? Let's connect these thrilling race results back to the big picture. Why does this specific Sunday matter so much? Because the championship impact here is nothing short of a paradigm shift. We entered the summer break with a super tight, really volatile title fight. But the combination of Jorge Martin's calculated recovery paired with those catastrophic non-scores from key Ducati and Aprilia rivals, the math has dramatically changed as we head into the final 10 races of the year. Finally, let's take a look at the updated points ranking for the top 3. Jorge Martin has extended his lead significantly. He's now sitting pretty at 240 points. His ability to snag 20 points on a day when his start device failed, that is the hallmark of a true champion. And right below him, Marco Bezzecchi's heroic, pain-defying ride vaulted him over the crashed-out Ayogura. Bezzecchi moves into second place with 209 points, while Ogura is now stalled out at 203. So we had an Aprilia 1-2-3 in the race, and now we have an Aprilia 1-2-3 in the rider standings. Wild. Which leaves us with this final, burning question. As the paddock packs up and heads to the notoriously low-grip sands of Motorland Aragon for the very next round, can Ducati solve their chassis and front-end issues to strike back? Or is Aprilia's technical dominance and their riders' sheer willpower going to reign supreme for the rest of 2026? It is a fascinating technical and mental battle right now, and I, for one, absolutely cannot wait to see how it unfolds. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, and I will catch you in the next one.